Hello everyone, my name is Margaret Kreyling and this is my final presentation for the Architecture Studio 602, Spring 2025. My project name is Crisis Culture and Connection. This project focuses on the local impact and global knowledge for everyone surrounding disaster resilience within architecture. I began working through my project ideas and concepts by developing a few different diagrams and conceptual images as you see here. The top image illustrates the ocean and flooding areas surrounding the Puerto Plata region within the Dominican Republic. You can also see the statue of Christ the Redeemer atop the mountain that overlooks the Puerto Plata cities. Additionally, below you will see my concept diagram where I began to start seeing the connections between local, global, natural, and design elements for my project, site, and the people it involves. And finally, on the right-hand side, you will see more detailed structure for how I began to map out some of these different elements and how they could actually appear within my architectural project. Finally, there is a quote that I love here at the bottom that I believe sums up majority of my project goals by saying the physical extinction of people is universally condemned, but ethnocide, the deconstruction of people's way of life, is not only not condemned, it's universally in many quarters celebrated as a part of a development strategy. I think this shines a great light on how culture, community, and even our natural environment, all that are looped in with ethnocide, need to be prioritized through architecture. To give a little bit of understanding about my site, looking at the global, regional, city, and site scales here, we can see it zoom into the island, then into the regional area of the Dominican Republic, the city of Puerto Plata, and then finally the site, which is located at the base of the mountain. Additionally, here we have some photos from the time I spent living in the Dominican. This is what really inspired me to focus in on this specific region for this project. They deal with many natural disasters, and due to their economic status as a developing country, many of their resources and solutions after natural disasters are not sustainable and long term. Additionally, most of the Dominican has transitioned from what used to be a lot of field work to now service work due to the tourism in the region. Because of this, a lot of the economic flow, as well as community involvement, is often prioritized to visiting people from other countries. And because of this, I wanted to tie in the local community and the global visitors to help them better understand what it means to be a part of the Dominican Republic. Looking a little bit further into the site, there's a few different factors that play into this site, both culturally and environmentally. There are some transit routes surrounding the site, however, it gets a little less dense as you get to the bottom of the mountain, which is where my site is located. You can see one river and a couple parks, some building density, but pretty vague around the actual site itself. And then additionally, the open versus occupied land is shown on the site. As I selected my site, all of these factors played a role, and additionally, the influence of the risk that I am associating for this project is flooding due to natural disasters that come from hurricanes. The site is elevated and able to withstand most of this flooding and would act as a relief station for the lower cities as they cannot stay in their homes during floods and hurricanes. These are some of my form and volume iterations as I began to work through the site development, and additionally some precedent studies which inspired a few moments throughout my actual project, including natural light paths, underground structure, and open walkways. Here's the program I've laid out for the site. There are 4 levels, and each level has a daily use program as well as a disaster relief program. Those are highlighted per level, and each level is very open and free to be transitioned from the daily use into a disaster relief station as needed. Here's another view over my program and laying out the first level, which is more of a immersive exploration space. The second level, which functions as a culinary market hall and has a terrace as well. The third space, which is more of the exhibition gallery to inform visitors of the culture. And lastly, the top floor is focused on admin and meeting space, as well as a deck that walks around the front of the building. Here are some site views. There is the Christ the Redeemer statue. It is the secondary up on the Mount Isabel. Then there is the urban city down below and coastline surrounding 3/4 of the site. As we move into structure, I wanted to focus in on rammed earth. I believe that rammed earth plays more than just a structural aspect here. I think rammed earth represents a few things in my project, including that we are integrating this structure into the natural site, just as tourists and people who visit the Dominican should be focused and aware of how they are integrating to this community and the impact that they have. Another reason that I wanted to use rammed earth walls is because of the many benefits. They are non-toxic, they are very healthy and able to withstand for many years and decades to come, especially with structural reinforcing of rebar. These walls and building as a whole can withstand storms during the times of need, during the natural disasters. Here I have my site plan showing the entry level up on the 4th floor, top of the site, and then lower on the terrain there is a ground level entry as well. Here are some east and south elevations. You can see the front of the site that would be seen from a vehicle path. And then you can see the south of the site that would be seen from the cable car station, which is what people take up to the top of the mountain to see the Jesus statue. Additionally, some other elevations here. We have our north elevation, which faces the coastline and has some viewing windows here for that, as well as the west elevation. This is the back of the site and is one level at this uppermost elevation. Here's how the site sits. And then we move into floor plans. This is the first floor plan. You can see there's some curved walls within the space, as well as an open area for some of the immersive exploration workshops. Next, we have the second floor. There is some glass flooring here, but this whole space acts all together as a space that can be used for many different events, as well as more of a market, kitchen, cafe area. Then we have the third floor. This floor is the most open. It has some exhibition galleries and a viewing area here to look out on the coastline. There is a terrace here as well. And then the other spaces are quieter spaces used for either study or library purposes. Then we have the fourth floor. This would be admin flex space and a deck walk as well. Here are some of my sections showing a little bit further into what the site looks like on a closer view. And this is the longer of the sections. This is cutting straight through the courtyard and pointing back towards the west side of the site. And then here are some even closer sections at a quarter scale, showing a few different areas, interior, exterior, and how the different levels and indoor-outdoor spaces play a part. Lastly, here are some of my site views in a more realistic rendered format. This is the walkway from the top of the site at the highest elevation where you can enter onto the fourth floor, or you can walk down the natural terrain to the site below. And lastly, some final rendered elevations and views. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for listening.